After over a decade of playing some version of Mario Kart 8, a new mainline Mario Kart game comes out in less than a month. We're gliding to the finish line on the last lap of N64 Rainbow Road, so before the game releases on June 5th, I wanted to bring up some theories I have, some of which I think could actually happen, some of which are delusional, and I also gathered some of your guys' theories as well from our community tab. You guys had some interesting things to say, so let's jump right into it. Hey guys, it's Thomas from the Switch Stop, and these are the theories about Mario Kart World I want to talk about before the game releases. My first theory has to do with Rainbow Road. We know two things about Rainbow Road in this game. We've seen this leaked icon, and we also know it's the only unlockable track, and you get it after beating all the Grand Prix. Of course, they have to have a Rainbow Road, but the question is, how are they going to incorporate that into what we already know of this game? It's way up in the sky above the clouds, so it doesn't really do anything for free roam. It seems out of the way, and it's just one track as shown by the leaked menu that added just one icon for Rainbow Road. Something isn't adding up, so here's the theory. I think Rainbow Road itself will be the special cup, and it will be a marathon, one race, like a Grand Prix where you just don't stop. In Grand Prix, you still stop after races and then just drive to the next place. You don't in the new knockout mode though, so I think the new Rainbow Road is going to be a full cup, and obviously it will have its own original section, but I also believe we'll be getting past Rainbow Roads up in the clouds with this one. We've seen courses like Mario Circuit that include multiple variants. Here having SNES Mario Circuit 1, 2, and 3 all in the exact same location. What if this game's Rainbow Road features snippets or sections of past Rainbow Roads, resulting in a full cup of Rainbow Roads? Alternatively, if they didn't want to just do Rainbow Road, this leaked image takes place up in the sky. What about a Cloud Top Cruise or Sky Gardens remake? Think about it. Rainbow Road is going to be playable in Grand Prix, and likely knockout mode as well. How would you travel from race to race, which is this game's main mechanic you do in both knockout and Grand Prix, if just one of the races in said cup takes place in the sky? I guess they could just have the world's longest cannon glider, but that's a lazy workaround that just avoids this game's main mechanic, that being the open world. Realistically, having a bunch of Rainbow Roads all close together would make the Special Cup truly feel special, and like a worthy send-off for the game. Okay, last thing about Rainbow Road before we move on. I wanted to shout out something Gabe's 3D World official said, because it's something I could definitely see happening. In the cup completion cutscene when you win a Grand Prix, where the trophy for that Grand Prix, in this case the Mushroom Trophy, flies up above you. Gabe says he thinks every cup will have a cutscene play like that once you clear it, and that those cups are slowly forming Rainbow Road somehow, which I completely agree with. However, next he says maybe you can even view it from the overworld as it forms if you're able to look up. And I just saw this the other day. I don't know how, and no one's been talking about this, but you can look up in this game. You just have camera controls with the right stick. Maybe it's the D-pad actually, I'm not entirely sure. I could totally see Nintendo having players visually track their progress as each win in a Grand Prix goes and rises up to the sky and Rainbow Road gets slowly built or something. Next, let's talk about free roam. My next theory is free roam has actual missions. Yes, I understand the P-switches were referred to as missions verbally, so yeah, this game technically has missions. These look fun, and obviously I'm glad they exist, but they're bite-sized challenges copy and pasted around the map. When I say missions, I'm more talking about NPCs giving you a side quest, like in Breath of the Wild. That game had both the bite-sized challenges in the form of Koroks and Shrines, and a bunch of random missions that in Mario Kart World would see you driving all around, maybe delivering items to help find the Yoshi restaurant, finding then fighting bosses, or taking pictures of specific landmarks using photo mode. Why do I still think this is in the game at all, despite it being a really big selling point for a lot of people that they just haven't talked about? Well, for one, copium, but it also makes sense based on what we've seen of the open world. Massive looking enemies that could be bosses, NPCs like Nabbit spotted outside of their cart, and also stuff like the Mario Odyssey green binoculars dotted throughout the world that Nintendo has suspiciously also neglected to mention. I mean, yeah, they are just binoculars that will likely let you see more of the world, but the point still stands. There are things in this world that you can interact with that Nintendo is not explaining to us. They're not pointing these things out, they didn't mention them in the Director Treehouse, and that is a surprising thing because the main selling point of this game should be the open world, but Nintendo is not really telling us what we can do in the open world, which makes me think there's more stuff to do here than initially meets the eye. Next theory comes from Piggy and Wiggy, and they think that the little badges that you can equip with the plus button give your car a certain advantage. He mentioned that in the first trailer, we saw Mario go on a boost panel, and there were these red wisps that no one else got. He thinks badges are the reason why, and that maybe the banana oils badge will make your chances of getting a banana a little higher. I hope you're right. This would be really cool if you could just pick like one perk tied to a random badge. It would add a ton of replayability, and probably some interesting strats if you could use them online, but this is a pretty big gameplay change. It would be crazy of them to keep this under wraps for some reason. Like, this really seems like something they would have talked about in the direct, which is kind of bumming me out because I really hope these little badges actually do something, but I'm kind of a doomer on them. I don't really think they do anything. I think they'll be purely cosmetic, but I hope you're right though. I hope this theory comes true. Before we get into this next theory, if you are enjoying this video, it means a lot if you hit the subscribe button. We're trying to get to 300,000 subscribers and it would mean a lot. That's all I gotta say. Let's get back to it. Okay, so many of you guys commented this, and I was shocked because the game's not even out, but I understand why. DLC. What is Nintendo going to do, if anything, to update this game going forward? I would assume Nintendo will do DLC. It's worked out really well for them, specifically with Mario Kart in the past. But we're entering a new era of the company with Switch 2, so I'm not entirely convinced it's going to happen. I would have thought Odyssey would have gotten DLC, but it didn't. However, what a lot of you guys said is that the DLC would happen as islands. You would be able to go to new islands that has new tracks on them, probably new P-Switch missions, maybe new characters you can unlock, and that would be how Nintendo would get around the challenge of adding in new content to an already established open world. I hope that's right, because that would be really cool. Imagine if the islands had different themes, like a Donkey Kong Jungle Island with a bunch of Donkey Kong inspired tracks. Maybe that's where you actually unlock Diddy Kong, man. A lot of you guys were hoping for like a booster course pass amount of new content, straight up doubling the tracks in the DLC. That I don't think is feasible, but I really do hope they go with this sort of island idea because it just makes the most sense with the game's core design philosophy of you can drive anywhere. If you add too many DLC courses on the main map, it's gonna feel too crowded and like you're not really able to explore it. And if you just teleport to race them in a void like every other Mario Kart track before this, that seems lazy and against the core point of the game. So yeah, I hope they do the islands. One of the weirdest parts of World's character roster is the lack of Koopalings, which is saying a lot because there is some weird stuff going on in this character roster. However, I would have bet money that these guys would be in the game. Koopalings were added in Mario Kart 8 and kind of hated because they took up a lot of the new roster slots, but it is weird to not see them return. They've been in Mario Kart for over 10 years now, were the main antagonists in Mario Kart Live Home Circuit, launched with Mario Kart Tour, and are even in this game through advertisements, but seemingly not on the roster. Well, Peach Fanboy says the Koopalings are bosses in Mario Kart World. There's 7 cups, this is true, 7 areas, I guess, yeah, and therefore 7 bosses, 7 Koopalings in free roam, potentially for missions where maybe they beat them and then they join you and you can race as them. I hope you're right, not because I really care if the Koopalings are going to be in this game, but because anything close to resembling a boss fight would be awesome. And you know what, the more I think about this theory, the more right I think it is. Who else could you realistically have as bosses that you could unlock after beating them? They couldn't use Bowser. You have to be able to play as Bowser from the start. He's too popular. But the Koopalings, that kind of makes sense. The game is called Mario Kart World, and the Koopalings were famously in Super Mario World. I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of all I got, but I hope it's right. I mean, this would be really cool, mainly for the boss fights in my opinion. The next theory is a quick one, but I completely love it. It's just a playable credits sequence that has you go drive across the world after you've quote-unquote beaten the game, where the credits pop up and you end up at Peach's castle. Josu1724 states they have no basis for this, but they think it's a cool idea, and they got the idea from Astrobot's credit sequence. I always love it when Nintendo has any sort of like interactivity within the credits. Games like New Super Mario Bros. Wii, Smash Bros, even something like Splatoon. I love that. And what's a better send-off to this game, to Mario Kart World, than driving through the world? I love this idea. The next theory is another DLC theory, and it's a super neat idea coming from Sensei Spud. They think there's going to be a shrunken DLC where Professor Egad is a character on the map, and after interacting with him, he shrinks you with the shrink ray and lets you into his house. This is where we could find tracks like Ribbon Road, Squeaky Clean Sprint, and Waluigi Pinball. I love this idea. I think it's super funny. Egad should be playable in this game. It's crazy that a dolphin's playable over him. And also, you reminded me how overall great the shrunken track selection is. They could come up with some new ideas too. I think that would be sick. This next theory, if it's correct, is the most insane call of all time. This guy shot his shot and it had to go in the video. Nade thinks it's going to sell exactly 27.34 million copies in the next 4 years. 4 years is a long time from now. 27 million copies is insane though. I could see this hitting, so I have set myself a calendar reminder for June 5th, 2029. Oh my god. Princess Feige thinks each question mark panel will unlock a nearby minigame for players to enjoy in free roam. Specifically, that these could be short races on tracks that are technically in the game, but not official tracks, like the Boo Valley tracks near Boo Cinema, which exist out on like the boardwalks in front of the actual cinema. Or they could be capture the flag, king of the hill type things. Just extra options for multiplayer fun and free roam. I really hope this is right, because as of right now, the only thing we know about these is that it tells you you've activated it. Giving us some extra fun multiplayer stuff in free roam, I would love that. Kind of makes sense too, if you're gonna have the P switches for single player, add in fun little multiplayer challenges you can just drive over to, start up, keep track of points, see who wins. This would be super cool. I hope it's right. All right, we're getting to the end. We have 3 more theories, and this one I think might have actually already been solved. Ghostmaster states this: a long time ago, back in 2008, Nintendo released a game called Mario Kart Wii. This game had many tracks, and among them, there was one called Moo Moo Meadows. This track was largely centered on Moo Moos, but the so-called Moo Moos didn't appreciate all the glory due to a single reason. The track was called Moo Moo Meadows, but the Moo Moos wanted to go by the name of cow. That is why cows are actually called cows and not Moo Moos in Mario Kart World. This was groundbreaking stuff when I was reading it. I was starting to lose my mind. I didn't know what was happening, but I think Pikmin Pro 2001 came in with the right answer, stating that the racer is actually a Moo Moo, and cow just happens to be his name, which makes sense. Mario's not called human, so this is just a Moo Moo named cow. That's my new headcanon for the rest of this game's life. All right, last 2 theories. These ones are actually real. Rancor says that their theory as to why they only showed 2 images of Pauline in the Nintendo Today app is because her other costumes spoiled Donkey Kong Bonanza. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I have not logged into that app once, so I'm just taking your word for it, but according to Rancor, other characters had 4 pictures, which might not be a coincidence. However, I do not think Pauline will have costumes that like spoil anything in Bonanza, because Bonanza comes out after Mario Kart World. I guess maybe they could do it as updates, but they wouldn't include content at launch because that would still spoil the game. I hope you're right though, especially because now we know Pauline is actually in Bonanza. I'm so confused on what's going on with that game from a story perspective, but whatever, that's a topic for a different video. Alright, last theory of the video. This was something I saw a lot of you guys talking about, and I don't think it's happening. In fact, I'm 100% confident it's not. Dereto specifically said that, to the dismay of the fan base, they think Nintendo is making Mario Kart World a live service game. They compare it to how games like Fortnite and Valorant make more money, and thinks that new costumes, characters, and carts will be paid for using an in-game currency, not standard DLC. I do not think this is happening at all. First of all, Nintendo already had a live service game with heavy gambling elements, and then they shut it down. Second, games like Fortnite and Valorant can get away with that because they're free. Third, if they were going to do that, they definitely would have said something. That is not really something you just sneak drop into the game and you're like, oh yeah, they'll find out when it comes out. So I saw a lot of these live service comments, and I can understand people thinking that because that is the way the industry has been going, but there's just no universe this game is a live service game. I mean, hopefully it gets updates, but nothing with like in-game currency, like a V-Bucks system or something like that. I don't think it's happening. All right, those are all of the theories. I just wanted to go through everything I thought of and you guys had, because this is the last time we're going to be able to theorize about a new unreleased Mario Kart game for, who knows, maybe another 10 years. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this more laid back video, and I'll see you in the next one. Subscribe so you see that next video, and if you want to see some of the cut features from Mario Kart World, click the button on screen right now. I'll see you guys. Peace.